Hey, what is going on, and welcome back to the Wicked channel. Today I wanted to show you guys the absolute best builds for controller.
What's up, bitches? Oh, more mobs? No big deal. Boom, boom, boom.
And the absolute worst builds for controller. So pretty much I went ahead and tested all of the builds on the maxroll.gg site with a controller. I know a lot of you play on consoles, and a lot of people play on PC with a controller. I play both depending on the time of day, right? If my girlfriend's sleeping at night, I am controller plugged in all the time. If she is awake, I am on mouse. So without further ado and wasting your grind time, let's get into it. So for the first and most favored class, I'd like to go over the Rogue, right? This class is played by everybody. A lot of people love it. So let's get into it. Overall, the Rogue is very good on controller. The only one downside to a Rogue on controller, in my opinion, just one, is the Shadow Step, right? Shadow Step's a highly relied on ability in order to use Unstoppable to either go into a pack so you can start your burst combo, or you use your Shadow Step when you're CC'd and you're trying to escape. Now, when you're CC'd and you're trying to escape with Shadow Step on a controller, it's kind of where you hit some issues, you know? Getting to that end pack or that end mob outside the pack is very difficult on a controller. So a lot of the time you end up just shadow stepping right back in, you know, a foot away from where you were. So that's the only downside in my opinion on a controller, right? So the first build would be Flurry. This build, absolutely S tier on controller. Super easy to maneuver, very easy to aim your abilities with on the controller. No downsides to this build whatsoever. No matter which way you shape it or form it, any Flurry build works perfect on a controller. Highly recommend. The next one, Twisted Blades. I thought this one might have been a little janky just due to trying to move through mobs very quickly, right? Without dash per se if it's on cooldown. But I'm going to be honest, this feels a little bit better on controller than it does on a PC sometimes, in my opinion, because the auto pathing on a joystick on a controller lets you move through and past mobs a lot easier. That it just makes Twisted Blades feel super good on a controller. It feels amazing. So highly recommended for Twisted Blades on a controller as well. Next one, we'll go ahead and do Penetrating Shot. Penetrating Shot is probably an A tier in my opinion on the controller. It takes a little more skill, right, to develop your aiming and not miss your penetrating shots. If you do miss your shot on a controller, you know, you're normally triggered up 3 combo points plus possibly an imbue, so you don't want to miss, right? So it makes it a little more crucial to want to hit those penetration shots. But in all honesty, it's way easier to hit than other skills like Bone Spear and Frost Shards. They're a lot easier to miss on a controller than they are with Pen Shot. So Pen Shot is definitely an A tier. It's a very good controller build in my opinion. Very easy to control. Next one I would say right behind that is Rapid Fire. Rapid Fire is the same thing, right? Very easy to control, just like Pen Shot. If you miss, it's actually less of a hit, right, towards your resources, and it's not so much of a big deal. So Rapid Fire might even be better on a controller than Penetrating Shot, in my opinion. Third one, Barrage. I think Barrage is definitely more janky than these two on controller, right? Because sometimes you need to be up close, sometimes you need to be far away, so your positioning is a little more important on a Barrage. So that's the only reason I would say it's after these builds when it comes to controller. But other than that, it's a great build to play on a controller. Wouldn't downside it at all. Traps, I would have to put in B. This is going to be for Death Trap builds, right? Death Trap's very good, but it highly relies on you being able to position properly so you can get all the mobs together juicy. Shadow stepping in with a controller, sometimes you aren't exactly where you want to be and you need to move a little bit. So it's not as prime as it needs to be, but it's definitely doable, definitely still good to play on controller, but me, in my opinion, put it in the B tier. So I don't think there's any other rogue builds to put in here. So I think overall, though, very good controller class to play. So without that, we will move on to the Barbarian. My favorite class to play, period, and to play on the controller. First things first, we'll just put it up there. Barbarian Whirlwind. This is not being biased. The Whirlwind is the most comfortable, smooth controller build you can play. You go in there with your shouts, you spin to win, and you just hold your button down on your controller and you just move with the joystick, and it just feels good, right? Doesn't feel spazzy, doesn't feel clunky. It's the smoothest build on the controller, without a doubt, no question. Highly recommended if anybody just wants a smooth, good, solid, fast build on a controller. Go Whirlwind. Hoda. Hoda is gonna go down in the high A tiers. Okay, Hoda would be S tier because Hoda feels very good on the controller. The only one reason why I put it in the A tier is because in order to min-max your damage, right, to get those two hits with the wave from your legendary, you need to attack next to the mob or the opposite way, and you can't really do that on a controller. I've tried a lot. It does not really let you do. You can kind of force target some stuff and make it happen, but it's very slow and clunky at that point. So A tier for Hoda. Highly recommended though to still just go in there and smash. You do plenty of damage, right? It's very easy to hit side mobs sometimes when you want to burst an elite, right? It's still doable, just not prime. After that, I got Rend. Rend I will go ahead and put after the rogue builds, because Rend, you do need to move, slice, move, slice, move, slice a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? So positioning is very important, but just being able to go in there, beat them up with your bleeds, hit and run feels extremely good on a controller. Couldn't recommend another build other than Whirlwind for Barbarian to play on a controller. Absolutely great. Next, I'm going to do Double Swing. Double Swing, it's either end of B tier or C tier. I'm just going to put it C tier for now. We'll see what happens. But C tier, the reason I say this, it feels good on the controller in the beginning, but if you go with like a leap slam or, you know, basically if you go with the leap slam, you cannot target your leaps the way you want to on a controller, obviously, right? Just like Shadow Step or anything like that. You kind of end up leaping in the front of packs or in the very back of packs. You can't really hit that center and that juicy spot that you really want to on a controller. So I put any build that requires that down in C, B tier. And then also Upheaval, same thing. I'm going to put Upheaval a little bit, no, I'd say after Double Swing. Upheaval, it also requires good positioning. You need group mobs, you know. If you don't position well and you just kind of slightly shoot your Upheaval at the left side of the pack, you're going to miss with half your Upheaval on a controller, and it just feels like shit. So definitely don't give a high rating for controllers for Upheaval. It just does not feel good. So I think that's all the Barbarian builds. That's kind of where they stand. Whirlwind for days. Next, we'll go over the Druid, my second favorite class. Probably pushing against Barbarian, right? Druid feels absolutely good overall on the controller. There is only one build that is a downfall on controller, so we'll explain that in a second. But Pulverize, we'll go over this one first. Pulverize is an absolute beast. I would have to say after Flurry, between here is perfect, because sometimes you do need that positioning when you're hitting your Pulverize wave and you want like the boss to be in your wave plus your quakes, so that way you're getting that double damage. That is the only difficult positioning on the Pulverize. As far as aiming your Pulverize on a controller, it is a freaking breeze. Like, it's so easy to aim, it's so easy and reliable to hit your abilities and not miss. You just absolutely stomp stuff on a controller, and it just feels smooth too. Like, it almost removes the clunkiness that people deal with on PC because you are on a controller, and it feels more like a hack and slash kind of game, right? Like, you're building and spending, but it just feels a lot better than left clicking, right clicking, or clicking and pressing 4, right? Personal opinion though. Next one, we're going to go with Shred. Shred is an absolute powerhouse on the controller. I mean, honestly, I could even... Early game, it's maybe an A, right? Late game, when you have it set up like Rob showed in his videos, where you can just auto-target everything, this is an absolute powerhouse. Like, it's probably more it's more powerful than Whirlwind. It's not more smooth than Whirlwind, but this build is absolutely insane, right? Shred on a controller feels so good. You could just target mobs. You can even... I don't know if any of you guys have noticed, but the shrine buff with the conduit, when you're jumping with your lightning attacks on a controller, you can actually jump to mobs that are completely off your screen that you can't even click on a controller, right? So Shred can kind of do that same thing. It's got that same targeting animation. So unbelievable Shred on controller, let me tell you. Next, we got Tornado. Tornado is absolutely super good. I would say it's right here. Honestly, it kind of even maybe performs better than Pulverize, because you get the auto-targeting tornadoes, so you end up just moving fast. You have Hurricane, which is obviously you just walk in with Hurricane, and then you just start blasting tornadoes, and they auto-target your enemies. Tornado, it's generally one of the best builds up here as well, too. So, again, Druid overall, right? Got a lot of builds that are very good on controller. And then the worst build, and one of the worst builds on controller, period, right? Not just in the Druid, this is in general, is the Landslide Druid, right? This Landslide Druid, when you're trying to target your core abilities with a controller, you're not going to hit what you want to hit. You're going to miss a lot of mobs. You're not going to hit the mobs you want. You're going to be completely out of resources, and you're not going to be a happy camper with this build. You can run this build. You're just going to spend twice as much resources as someone else using a mouse. Plain and simple. That's just how it is. If you don't believe me, test it out. Watch what a PC player can do with it. Insane difference, right? Don't play Landslide on a controller unless you really want to. Okay, and then the last build, you have Trample Slide, but I personally don't really know too much about Trample Slide, so I'm just not going to put a rating on that one, especially on controller. I did not get to test that. Okay, so next we are going to go ahead and go over the Sorceress. Sorceress is a very good class on the controller. There's only maybe a few things that I don't recommend on a Sorceress because it can just get a little janky. But overall, not too bad of a class, right? So Arc Lash, I'd say way up here. Feels more comfortable than Flurry on a controller, 100%. You just teleport in, you pop your Frost Armor, you just start spamming your Arc Lash, and that's all you have to do. You just walk in and just spam your Arc Lash. It just feels like candy. It's absolutely amazing. If anybody really likes Sorceress and you're on a controller, highly recommend Arc Lash build or the build to come behind it, just so we don't waste a bunch of time. It's basically the same build, but you're also running Chain Lightning. I'm going to put this over here, though, because it does get a little more clunky when you put Chain Lightning in there, but it's still definitely an S-tier build on the controller. It's super easy to aim Chain Lightning. Even if you missed a target you want to hit, it's probably going to bounce to the target you did want to hit, so Chain Lightning is extremely efficient on the controller, no doubt about that. The next one is, I'm going to say, somewhat of a meme. You can make it work, kind of a meme. Meteor on controller. Meteor on controller does not feel good at all. If you have fast mobs chasing you that move at 200% move speed, good luck hitting them with that meteor if your Nova's on cooldown. That is all I gotta say. It is not fun throwing meteors and running, and the mobs just consistently walking out of your meteor when you don't have a mouse to kind of preset where your meteors want to be or need to be. It works a lot of the time pretty good, though, I'm not going to lie, but there are some janky times where you are trying to kill an elite and run for your life, and you just can't hit him with a meteor. It's rough. It's rough out there. It's rough. The next one that I don't recommend on a Sorceress is going to be Firewall. Firewall's kind of got the same problem as Meteor, right? You want them to sit in your firewall, you want them to burn in your firewall, you want them to walk in your firewall, and you cannot cast your firewall ahead. You can only cast it on the mobs that are closest to you, and sometimes the mobs in the back, and when it goes on the mobs in the back, you're kind of pissed. But Firewall, probably one of the worst builds on controller, in my opinion. Firewall and Landslide are the two worst builds, in my opinion, on the controller. Just by far. There's only one other build that I'll be putting down here in this super bad list. I'll tell you when we're almost there, but those are the only builds so far I don't recommend you playing. Fireball Sorceress, I go ahead and give it a B. Once you get a lot of resources and you're able to spam it, you're not running out of mana, it can be an A tier. It's not bad, but just due to trying to aim your fireball a lot and trying to actually hit the mobs you want to hit with it, and if you're trying to focus Shaman, right, or if you're trying to focus the Banshees before they boost up that Archer and you get sniped, right, it's not efficient for really targeting those mobs you want. So Fireball on a controller, B tier. Hydra, it's not really a build. Any build with Hydra, I'm not going to lie, Hydra is very easy to use. So if you're running, Arc Lash with Hydra, it's phenomenal with the controller, right? You only have to press it. It shoots by itself. You don't even have to do anything. I mean, you could put this all the way at the front if you really want to. I mean, it auto aims itself. You don't have to do anything, right? So Hydra, any build with Hydra on a controller, very good, very good. And last but not least for the Sorceress, we have the Frost Shards. Frost Shards, a very good build. Extremely fun, but I gotta put it in the high B. I could put it at the end of an A tier or late B tier. And the only reason I say this is because for some reason, I don't know if it's like the hitbox for Frost Shards is like this when you're trying to aim it with your joystick or something, but it's so much harder to aim with this compared to like Pen Shot or Bone Spear, like just getting getting that first initial hit and just spamming your target when you're trying to move and kite. It's for some reason really janky trying to get back on the proper target with ice shards. It's like you're trying to aim with a needle or something. I could be incorrect and I'm just blowing smoke, but that's just how I feel, right? So that's where I put ice shards, frost shards. Jesus. All right. Anyway, so moving on to the Necromancer. Finally, we need to get this on the road, right? So Necromancer, Bone Spear, I can put this at a positive, even better than Hoda A tier. I would put it on the S tier, but it is a pretty, it is a range ability that you do need to aim and kite a lot, especially as a Necromancer, or, you're going to die depending on your build. So I give Bone Spear an A tier. It's pretty easy to aim, much easier than like Frost Shards or Fireball, like way easier to aim. And it just locks on the targets that you want it to pretty smooth. We don't want this build. So Blight build, I would give a S tier on controller. Not that it's a very good build in general. I mean, I actually think it's pretty good, right? I haven't played a lot of Necromancer, but I tested it out and it's pretty good. It does pretty good damage. But it's a super good controller build. Feels very smooth, very easy to aim your abilities, like you almost never miss. And everything's just big AoE explosions and everything kind of melts together. So it's very efficient on a controller. Plus, you have minions depending on what Blight build you're doing. So it's, in my opinion, S tier on the controller. Absolutely Blight. The next one, it's showing me the Scythe auto attack or basic attack, but we're gonna go ahead and use this one for Sever. Sever is the final and last ability that I do not recommend you use on any build on controller. It is impossible to aim on the mob you want to. It does not hit the back targets when you want your sight to spin. You wanted that juicy spin for your sight to go through all the mobs, hit the back mob, come back to you, and get that good damage per second, right? Well, when you're using a controller, it just throws it at the first 5 mobs in front of you. It doesn't go anything past that. So you're literally completely wasting essences on big packs with this ability. So I highly do not recommend this build on controller at all. It's probably the worst. You can make it work with tendrils, but till then, you're a little janky. Bloodlance, I really don't know too much about. It's a ranged ability, though. I'm assuming it can't be very good just because of the fact of you have to kind of like run and shoot, right? Let's just not put this one on the bar because I don't know anything about it. Summoning, that's mixed in with other builds, so it's fine. To worry about that or that one. The final and last build for Necromancer, I believe, is Blood Surge, which I can give Blood Surge. Feels better. This one's up here for sure. Blood Surge feels fantastic with control. It's probably the smoothest Necromancer build, in my opinion. Hands down on the controller. You already know, right? Because it's just got a big AoE, doesn't require a lot of precision, doesn't require a lot of targeting. You can build up everything you need to get your juicy damage going. You're fortified, and it's just very hard to make mistakes on the controller when you're playing this build. So it's highly recommended in my opinion, right? Hands down. But I think that's it, right? So this is pretty much my top to bottom, all classes for controller. Obviously my number one recommended is the Druid or Barbarian. If you're going to play on a controller and you just want a smooth build that works good and you don't want to deal with any jankiness or any complicated kiting, you definitely can't go wrong with the melee characters. They're just hands down better on controller. So appreciate you guys watching the video. Sub and like if you enjoyed it or if I helped you out with any information, I really appreciate it. Comment. I will ask any questions about whatever you guys want. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a good day.